In the quiet suburbs of Elmwood, nestled between a row of neatly trimmed hedges and charming cottages, the Andrews family had lived comfortably for years. Their modest home had always been a haven, a place of tranquility where they felt safe and secure. That was until they decided to rent out their guest room to make some extra income. Little did they know that this decision would turn their lives into a waking nightmare. When the decision was made, Martha Andrews, the family matriarch, quickly posted an ad on Craigslist. The ad was straightforward: a cozy room for rent in a peaceful neighborhood, perfect for a student or young professional. Within hours, their inbox was flooded with inquiries. After sorting through the responses, Martha and her husband, Paul, settled on a young woman named Emily, who seemed friendly and responsible. Her emails were polite, and she even had good references. Emily moved in a week later, and at first everything seemed perfect. She was quiet, kept to herself, and paid her rent on time. Martha and Paul were pleased with their decision. However, as weeks turned into months, subtle changes began to unsettle them. It started with small things: the occasional late-night noise from the guest room, which they initially brushed off as a part of Emily's routine. Then, they noticed that some of their personal items seemed to be out of place. Martha attributed this to her own forgetfulness, but the odd occurrences began to pile up. One evening, Paul decided to check on the state of the guest room. He wanted to ensure that everything was in order before Emily returned from work. As he opened the door, a shiver ran down his spine. The room was immaculate, but the closet door was slightly ajar. Paul had a habit of keeping it closed, and it seemed odd that it was open now. He peered inside but saw nothing unusual. The real terror began a few days later. Martha had been working late on a project in the living room when she heard faint scratching noises coming from the guest room. She hesitated, telling herself it was just the house settling, but the noise persisted. Her curiosity got the better of her, and she cautiously approached the door. Just as she was about to open it, the scratching stopped. She opened the door and found Emily's room empty and quiet. That night, Martha couldn't sleep. She tossed and turned, haunted by the scratching noise. The following morning, she decided to confront Emily about it. Emily assured her it was just the old house making noises, and Martha reluctantly accepted the explanation. A few weeks later, Martha discovered something truly disturbing. She had been cleaning the house when she found a small, hidden camera in the guest room's closet. Her heart raced as she realized what she had found. The camera was still recording, and as she reviewed the footage, she was horrified to see that Emily had been secretly filming the family in their most private moments. Panicked, Martha confronted Paul, and they both agreed that they had to act quickly. They decided to call the police, who arrived and questioned Emily. She was calm and composed, but the evidence was clear. Emily was arrested, and it was revealed that she had been using the footage to blackmail the Andrews family for money. The ordeal left the Andrews family shaken. They had trusted a stranger, only to have their lives invaded in the most invasive way possible. They had to go through the process of changing locks, installing security systems, and rebuilding their sense of security. The experience left a scar on their lives, and although they managed to move on, they never quite felt the same about their home again. Emily was convicted and sentenced, but the damage had been done. The Andrews family learned a hard lesson about trust and privacy. They were left with a lingering fear of the unknown, a reminder of how easily one's sanctuary can be breached. The guest room, once a symbol of comfort, now stood as a stark reminder of their encounter with true horror. As the years went by, the Andrews family managed to find solace in their home once more, but the memory of that harrowing experience never truly faded. It served as a chilling reminder of the dangers lurking behind even the most seemingly innocent decisions, and the terrifying reality that sometimes evil can come from the most unexpected places. As the years went by, the Andrews family managed to find solace in their home once more, but the memory of that harrowing experience never truly faded. It served as a chilling reminder of the dangers lurking behind even the most seemingly innocent decisions, and the terrifying reality that sometimes evil can come from the most unexpected places. In the picturesque town of Maple Grove, where every house seemed to have its own story, the Hartley family enjoyed a peaceful existence. Their Victorian home was both beautiful and spacious, with large windows that allowed sunlight to flood in and a garden that bloomed with seasonal flowers. The Hartleys, eager to downsize their living expenses, decided to rent out their spare bedroom. They hoped it would be a straightforward way to supplement their income and perhaps even meet some interesting people. Eleanor Hartley, the family's matriarch, took to Craigslist to create an ad for the room. The description was charming: a sunny, furnished bedroom in a friendly household. Within days, they received several responses. Among them was a man named Thomas Reynolds, who claimed to be a writer needing a quiet place to work on his novel. His emails were filled with enthusiasm and assurances, and his references checked out. Eleanor and her husband, Greg, agreed to rent the room to him. Thomas moved in at the beginning of autumn. Initially, everything went smoothly. He was polite, kept to himself, and paid his rent promptly. The Hartleys were pleased with their decision. However, as the weeks passed, Eleanor began to notice peculiar things. Thomas would frequently leave for long periods, sometimes disappearing for days without any explanation. When he was home, he was almost always locked away in his room. Eleanor's unease grew when she began to see Thomas lurking in the garden late at night. From her bedroom window, she would catch glimpses of him standing among the shadows, staring into the dark. She mentioned it to Greg, but he dismissed it as a harmless eccentricity. One evening, as a storm rolled in, Eleanor was preparing dinner when she noticed Thomas's door was slightly ajar. She had never seen it open like that before, and her curiosity got the better of her. She approached the door and gently pushed it open, only to find the room empty. The walls were covered in strange sketches and cryptic symbols, which seemed out of place in the otherwise tidy room. On the desk was a journal, its pages filled with detailed accounts of the Hartley family's daily routines and personal habits. Eleanor's heart raced as she realized the gravity of the situation. Frightened, Eleanor decided to confront Thomas. That night, as the storm raged outside, she knocked on his door, but there was no response. She tried again, louder this time, but still nothing. Desperate, she called Greg, who came home immediately. They decided to enter the room together, and this time they found it empty. Thomas had vanished, leaving behind only the disturbing sketches and journal. Panic set in as Eleanor and Greg realized Thomas had not only disappeared but had left behind a detailed record of their lives. They contacted the police, who arrived quickly. After investigating the house and questioning the neighbors, the police found no trace of Thomas Reynolds. The sketches and journal were taken as evidence, but Thomas was nowhere to be found. The investigation dragged on for weeks with no leads. The Hartleys were left in a state of constant fear and anxiety. They changed the locks, installed new security systems, and took extra precautions. The house, once a symbol of comfort, now felt like a cage, and the garden where Thomas used to roam became a place of dread. As winter approached, the Hartleys tried to regain a semblance of normalcy. They avoided discussing the incident, hoping it would become a distant memory. But the fear of the unknown lingered, and every creak in the house or shadow in the garden seemed to hold the echoes of their past ordeal. One evening, as Eleanor sat by the fireplace, she received an anonymous letter in the mail. Inside was a single line written in a familiar handwriting. "I'll be back." The letter was unsigned, but Eleanor recognized the handwriting from the journal. The Hartleys never discovered what had become of Thomas Reynolds. The police closed the case after months of fruitless searching, and the family was left with only their fears and the unsettling reminder that their once safe home had been invaded by a mysterious and unsettling presence. The letter served as a chilling promise that the nightmare might not be over, and the Hartleys lived with the constant, eerie feeling that their lives could be disrupted once again. The Hartleys never discovered what had become of Thomas Reynolds. The police closed the case after months of fruitless searching, and the family was left with only their fears and the unsettling reminder that their once safe home had been invaded by a mysterious and unsettling presence. The letter served as a chilling promise that the nightmare might not be over, and the Hartleys lived with the constant, eerie feeling that their lives could be disrupted once again.